look at Zayn Rayyan's case and how news headlines are portraying Zayn Rayyan and other participants. We are going to examine the portrayal of participants involved in Zayn Rayyan's case through news headlines, and we are going to analyze how news headlines influence public perception of Zayn Rayyan's case. And we hope, with this analysis, we hope to find answers to these questions. What is the portrayal of participants in Zayn Rayyan's case through news headlines? And how does news headlines influence public perception of Zayn Rayyan's case? Alright, moving on. On 5th of December 2023, Zayn Rayyan Abdul Matin was reported missing by his mother in Damansara Damai. And later, his body was found near a stream with fully clothed in his school uniform. And fast forward, post-mortem was done to his body, and they confirmed his death by strangulation with signs of self-defense wounds. And on 31st May of 2024, police arrested Zayn's parents for suspected murder and charged them with child neglect. However, until today, the investigations are still ongoing and it has gained public attention.
Okay, so we're going to look at the headlines that we have collected. So we have collected 102 headlines from 17 news outlets started from December 2023 until May 2025. So as you can see here, there is only one news outlet from international, which is Channel New Asia from Singapore, and actually there is only one headline from international news outlet, which means that the other 101 headlines is from local news outlets. Okay, so we found three main themes for the headline. The first one is authority focuses, where the headline published in the perspective of authority, for example, police or court. So the second one is suspect and victim reporting, where the headlines published about either about victim or the suspect or both of them at the same time. So the third one is legal proceeding, where the headline talking about law, lawyer, court, and trial. So next, we found that some news outlets chased for the first one to publish the article. For example, NST. So you can see here, June 2024, NST was the first news outlet to publish the article about Zayn Rayyan. And February 2025, NST also the first news outlet and the only news outlet that published about Zayn Rayyan on that day. So why they do that? Because according to Oliveira et al. 2021, a successful headline is the one who fulfilled the reader's belief and expectation, and also the one who published the recent scope and issue. So we also found that many news headlines that we have collected act as a public surveillance because they publish an informative type of headlines rather than story types of headline. So why they do that? Because they want to shape the public perception on the case, and also they want to draw the attention to the possible suspect, even though during that time there is still no final say who is the suspect yet. So next. Okay, so this is the list of participants that we found based on our analysis. However, we're only going to focus on the 4 key participants that set the tone of the case, which is Zayn Rayyan, parents, authorities, and also witnesses. Next.
Alright, so for the first key participant, which is the main victim of this case, is Zayn Rayyan. Here are all the representations of Zayn Rayyan. We have 6-year-old, we have autistic boy, missing, died, murder, neglected, strangulation, wounds on ears, abuse, injuries, local killing, and child. However, we are going to focus on some of them, and we're trying to find the representations. We're trying to find the identity that has been created by these words. Okay, firstly is 6-year-old and child. With these words, the media is trying to emphasize Zayn's age and highlighting how young and defenseless he was during the time. And at this age, at 6-year-old, a child is still very dependent on adults for safety and care. So therefore, it reminds the audience that Zayn Rayyan was not capable of defending himself, and he was just a child whose life has cut short. And then the next word is autistic. It demonstrates Zayn Rayyan's vulnerability, because autism is often associated with communication challenges and need, like heightened need for care. And the media suggests that he might be more vulnerable to neglect and abuse because of his special needs. And then the word well-behaved and not prone to tantrum was used to dismiss many assumptions that he was difficult or disobedient. And lastly, his name, Zayn Rayyan, it was mentioned a lot, 90 times. The name Zayn Rayyan was mentioned 90 times to humanize him, rather than referring him as something else. The media used name to identify him as a human. He's a child with a name, not just something else. And therefore, the media is putting Zayn Rayyan in positive light because they emphasize on his innocence and vulnerability. However, in this case, Zayn Rayyan was silenced because he was tragically murdered and he was not able to speak up for himself. By silence, it does not necessarily mean that he cannot be able to utter words. Rather, he was silenced because the justice has yet to be given to him. And then the significance of Zayn Rayyan in this case is to deliver awareness to audiences of special needs and neglect. Because according to McDonald, 2018, physical abuse was more common among children in the autism spectrum disorder only group, and compared to other maltreated kids, they are more likely to be victims of physical abuse and neglect. Therefore, Zayn's story becomes a call to action to improve awareness and ensure that children with special needs, like Zayn Rayyan's, are not overlooked and to be taken care of.
Okay, so next we're gonna look at the parents. So these are the words that we have analyzed and put under the parent. So the highlighted word is actually the words that we mentioned multiple times on the headlines. So from all the words under the parent, you can see that most of them is negative and strong word that can put someone in negative light. So for the parents, the news and authorities actually portray the parents as a main suspect of the case because of the evidence that they have. For example, the word changing to outfit in 20 minutes, emotionless, and also suspicious. So how can parents of the victim become a suspect? So according to Bar and Cooper 2023, the reason why someone can become a suspect in Discourse is because of their suspicious behavior, closeness to the victim, and also witnesses that they got. So because authorities and news portray them as a main suspect, people, especially the reader, would portray the parents in a negative light, especially because of the words like arrest, charged with neglect, child negligence, abuse, and neglect lead to abuse. So not only that, the word mother here is being mentioned 10 times, meanwhile for the father only be mentioned 2 times. So it indicates that the burden of taking care of child is being put on the mother rather than the father. And Williamson et al. 2022 also mentioned that people always expect that the child need to be placed on the mother rather than the father because of the stereotype that mother is the best and expert caregiver. So because of that, there is strong possibility that mother is the one who neglecting the child, which is Zayn Rayyan, because of the word mother constantly being mentioned in the headlines, not the father. And not only that, the word mother, abuse, and neglect also being put in the same headline together. So next.
So next is for the activities.
So my name is Ismail Sarah Matiza, and
here are the list of the words that are used to refer to the authorities. Here you can see that the words that they use are strong, like action-based words. So for the police, they use like assertive, strong action-based words in order to convey that they are authoritative. They have the power to investigate what happens behind Zayn Rayyan's case. So the words that are used include police, which is mentioned 22 times, arrest, which is mentioned 3 times, probe, which is mentioned 3 times, track, investigation, and justice, in which to show that, in which to project a sense of urgency when it comes to the police efforts, and such as when new leads are revealed, showing that they have the authority. So Blair et al. In 2021 highlighted that the public trust in the authorities are based on how they are able to meet the community expectations of justice. And justice, meanwhile, the court is playing a role of being a mediator, often relying on the police evidences and the witnesses' testimonies to identify the suspect's verdict. The words that are used are legal witnesses, tight security, closed door proceedings, and the word legal representations and lawyers are often used together with the words represented, appointed, replaced, and often rotating between the words jurisdiction and provisions in order to show that it is the process that the court used to determine the truth and to make a fair legal decision. So here you can see that the police and the court are given a voice as they are the representative of the case, being responsible to uncover the truth behind Zayn's Rayyan murder. So headlines involving the police and court often highlight their actions, their updates, and their decisions in reinforcing their central role in legal and investigation process. So.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Rayyan and I will be explaining the 4 key participants, which is the witnesses. So we can see that when we understand witnesses, it's usually people that are close to the case, which involve the family, the residents, and also babysitters. But we are going to only focus on 2, which are the residents and the secretary. So within the family, they live in an apartment. The residents were mentioned only twice for the whole list of 102 reviews. The first one was mentioned before the investigation even started, when they started going door to door to find missing the autistic boy, Zayn Rayyan, and also during the investigation where they seek closure. So we can see that the use of language that they use for these residents, that they have some sort of empathy towards the said boy. So this gives a significance of a sense of community. You know, the residents, they're not even blood related to the Zayn Rayyans, yet they have some sort of connection to a boy, especially a mentally ill boy. And second, of course, the teachers. They were seen as observant because, for example, we can see the headlines said something they recount or something that Zayn Rayyan had said, which meant they remember. They give some sort of secondary caregiver, as we often label teachers as an educator. So those are the witnesses that they kind of portray in the news headlines in terms of this case. Now we're going to look at the influence of framing the participants from a social and political context. So Malaysia, being an Asian country that strongly upholds family and parental roles, we often place these parental roles immense pressure in parenting, especially towards the mother, as mentioned before. And with any perceived parental failure, even before guilt is proven, it can lead to strong public and media judgment, and in turn, many means of it. In turn, things often emphasize on the family values, which can attract more readers to read. When we see the words mother, parent, father, child, and abuse in the same sentence, it's really hard to, it clouds your judgment to think, oh, the investigation hasn't even started, but we already have some kind of bias towards the parents seeing that they are guilty, even though it's not yet proven. And many news outlets frame the mother as highly likely to harm her child, as mentioned before. And of course, in terms of institutions of the authorities from police or legal lawyers, the public has some kind of trust in the institutions. Whether it's skepticism or confidence, it can sway the media coverage. And many news only include a certain part of what participants have said in order to shape the public perspective and emotions. So some words that they have said in court or outside can be taken out of context, even though they are saying it. But when taking things out of context, it can alter the perspective of the case. Now we're going to look at the effects of public perception and power relations. So in public perceptions, in terms of media coverage and how they portray, sensational headlines or dramatic language could make the public suspicious of NICU parents before any legal, as mentioned before. And news outlets, having the first-hand information, have the power to influence in how they want to portray it. No matter if it's positive or negative, they have the ability to make it opposite of what it is or exactly as it is. And in turn, it can make the public make an early assumption or bias, which is important that media literacy to be studied. Second one is emotional response. Just reading from the headlines, as mentioned, with cases that involve young children, it can be responded with strong emotions such as anger, sympathy, or blame, which can cause your judgment to make a prejudiced decision. And the last one is in terms of power relations. The police and authorities and parents play an important role in this case because although the news also have a way to sway the readers to shape their perceptions, but police and authorities also have the power in that case. They have to control the information, they have the ability to direct the investigation and decide who to arrest, therefore shaping how the public see the case. And when it comes to the parents, they are involved in the case in regarding to the child itself, so they have little power to control how they will portray. If they were shown any type of emotion, it can be interpreted differently depending on how it will interpret it. And that's how it is in terms of our relations when it comes to the parents. I will pass it to the next presenter.
So next is the public opinion in which that many felt that the mother was purposely neglecting her child or showing that she is a failure of a parent, and this reflects in the house society of the mother to take on the responsibility of taking care of a child emotionally and physically. As Zayn et al. In 2021 points out, mothers are usually judged more harshly compared to fathers when it comes, especially when something happens back to that child. And in families where they have autistic children, the child is more demanding and the support and the limited support makes it more overwhelming for the mothers. So in terms of social attitude, however, is more on the societal misconceptions of the autistic behaviors in which is linked to as a result of poor parenting, leading to isolation and to stigma of the parents. So a study by ENCO et al. In 2021 shows that 1 out of 3 parents in Malaysia did not receive support from their own family members, including their own spouse and including their own spouses. So in terms of policy changes, however, no laws have officially enacted since the death of Zayn Rayyan. However, this case underscores the increased need for awareness, the support systems and policy reforms to assist children with to assist families with autistic children. So next is the values, ideologies and stereotypes in which it aligns with the public expectation, including the social norms and responsibility of the authorities. So according to Zayn et al. In 2021, society often emphasizes on the traditional roles where mothers are expected to take on the burden while the father only has to be the breadwinner. And so according to US Department of Justice, however, the police should be the most trusted authorities in the public's perception, as they are given the responsibility to take on the case and to give the timely updates to the
community. Meanwhile, the court's main role is shown in many articles to ensure a fair legal process in which we determine guilt or innocence based on evidence and testimonies. So next, that's all from us. Here is our references. So thank you.